to provide to the people of Kenya the cost of power vis-a-vis what this independent power produces, private independent power producers. How much do they charge KPLC, and how much does that translate to the price ordinary citizens and investors pay? So, Mr. Speaker, I really want you to use your powers to ask the chair of the Energy Committee to supply me with the information so that the House, together with the House, we can interrogate the matter, Mr. Speaker. It is now 2 months.
Where's the chair of the Departmental Committee on Energy? The member for Nakuru Town East, the Honorable Gekaria, who deputizes him? Who's the vice chair? As you can see, both the chairperson, the vice chairperson are absent, not desiring to be present on this momentous day. I don't know how can they be absent? How can the chairperson be absent on a day like today, surely? Maybe but they should have come here. The House was sitting yesterday, so they cannot be said to be on the way from their villages. The member who is raising his hand up there, would you want to speak on behalf of the chairperson, or on behalf of the vice chair, or on your own behalf? Is that Honorable Osman? What? Okay. Very well, very well. Your concerns are noted, and the leader majority will convey that message, but let them bring the statement on Tuesday. It has taken too long. I can see an intervention from the member for Uriri. Honorable Nyamita.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the 13th of May, I did ask a question directed to the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations. My question had to do with compensation of one of their ex-members of the Kenya Defense Forces who had not been compensated for now over 25 years. And Mr. Speaker, you directed that question, and the chair then, I think Honorable Kateo Lemetito, agreed to bring feedback to this House in 2 weeks. Mr. Speaker, to date, we are heading towards the end of June, and we have not heard from them. They have not come back to this House to even come and seek for additional time. I'm seeking your intervention so that they probably fast-track this, because the people on whose behalf I was petitioning are waiting for this feedback.
You've had the petition which you have just read out. Perhaps it could be addressed in that petition, is it?
If it could be covered also, because mine was specific and I gave out all the details. So if they could address us, probably they are responding to this. I would appreciate it.
Kateo Lemetito. Although the question was really not directed to the chairman, it was directed to the cabinet secretary.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I was indeed very glad when you referred that petition to the Budget and Appropriation Committee, because we have, a long list of ex-army officers who are having such claims, as alluded to by the Honorable Nyamita. But Mr. Speaker, it's also good to note that these cases, because they all ended up being in court, from the court martial to the High Court, and High Court actually cleared those officers, awarded them those damages, But when you inquire from the government, especially from the Ministry of Defense, and specifically from the Attorney General Office, they say there is a pending appeal. Government had appealed for such judgment, and there are so many, and it actually could some sum of money, a lot of money, that were awarded to those ex-officers, ex-army officers. So now going to the budget committee, it is the budget committee that has got powers in this house to do appropriation. So the case of the Honorable Nyamita, I'm very sure it will be covered there, where the budget committee will look into the judgment of the High Court and whether there is any live appeal in the Court of Appeal on the same matter, and then they will make an informed decision. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, maybe the Honorable Nyamita will can also pursue with the Budget and Appropriations Committee. But certainly, and the Honorable Nyamita say that since he raised the question on the 13th of May, it is now towards the end of June. But certainly, 10th of June cannot be towards the end. It is not towards Honorable Nyamita. 10th of June cannot be towards the end of June. But nevertheless, your concern is noted. Yes, Honorable Nyamita.
Mr. Speaker, whereas I appreciate the feedback from the Chair of Defense and Foreign Relations, I think it would be justice if the committee at least looked into the matter instead of generalizing and saying that I think. In this house, the chair cannot come and say, I think that petition, when they are seized of that very question that I asked. They need to find out the details. If then it requires the intervention of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, Mr. Speaker, where I also sit, then he will bring it. But to just dismiss it without even having the benefit of looking at it, I think we might be directing it to the wrong committee. Because mine was not exactly as a petition that you had earlier raised. So I just want to urge that probably they look into it, they find out facts, because it is them who can be able to tell us whether the respective department has lodged an appeal. Instead of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, we will not be in a position to go and check whether, so that is the work of the committee, then they can direct it to.
You can get that. Honorable Katolo Mitito, can you bring on Thursday a specific response as to whether or not, in respect to the question raised by the Honorable Nyamita, whether the state did appeal, and if they did, the status of the appeal for the comfort of the honorable member by Thursday.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Nyamita, my good friend, knows very well that this is a very, very serious committee. From 13th May, we just came back the day before yesterday. We resumed on 8th. And so we haven't really failed to bring it on time, but I will go with your direction, Mr. Speaker. Thursday next week, we will respond to Honorable Nyamita's statement. But I was not really thinking, I'm being told by my good friend here, the member for Kiambu, that I'm not allowed to think. But Mr. Speaker, I am very certain that the end game for all these petitions on ex-army officers is a consolidated petition to be decided by the Budget and Appropriation Committee. But nevertheless, I will respond as directed by you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Nominated member Osotsi, you have an intervention. What is it about?
Mr. Speaker, just like my good friend Honorable Nyamita, I did ask a question here, I think in April, touching on KRA and revenue performance. Mr. Speaker, the question was directed to Finance and Planning Committee. I am concerned because it's taking too long for me to get an answer. So I would seek your intervention so that the committee can invite KRA to come and respond to the issues that I had raised in that question, Mr. Speaker.
Chair of Budgets, Honorable Wanga. Finance and Planning.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm really surprised by the Honorable Sotsi, because I have been in constant communication with him. He himself came to me, and he told me when we had invited KRA to come and respond, that he was not going to be available to come and listen to the answer to that question, Honorable Speaker. And he asked me to postpone it indefinitely until he's available. So I'm really surprised for the Honorable Sotsi to come and mention this on the floor as if the committee has not moved on the matter. Honorable Speaker, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. So, Honorable Speaker, I'm really surprised. I invited KRA. KRA were ready to come. Honorable Sotsi approached me. He told me he was not available on the day and that I should postpone it until a date that he is available. I am just waiting for him to come back and tell me when he is available. So, Honorable Speaker, to come and raise the matter here on the floor and to make the committee look incompetent is out of order, Honorable Speaker. I request the Honorable Speaker to find him out of order. And he had better just be quiet. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Sotsi, you know, what has been stated by the Chair of Finance is the staff that should see you be thrown out of the chamber, because it is not fair. It's not fair that you can approach the chair of the committee to postpone your question and then come to complain here. Is that so? Because as she says, then your hands will look extremely dirty.
Mr. Speaker, I want to be very clear. Yes, indeed, I've been in touch with the Chair of Finance. And yes, at some point, I said I was not going to be available because I was going to be out of town. But I never